Hello and welcome to the Entrepreneurial Edge. This week we're coming to you from unfamiliar territory. We're at a centre in Four Ways of Johannesburg where they're carrying out skin renewal. I'm not sure there's much they can do for me, but we're here to find the great entrepreneurial story behind this. Well, here I am with one of the founders, Victor Snyders. Just tell us, Victor, a little bit about your background in life.
I'm an architect by profession. I spent 25 years in the building and shopping centre development industry in South Africa. And really after having achieved all the things that I wanted to in that, was getting fairly bored. There were just no real new challenges. I was dealing with the same tenants in the South African context every single day. It was either a meeting with the Woolworths or a meeting with the Pick and Pay and the same people. And I was really looking for new challenges and new directions. My partner, Dr. Maureen Allam, was at that stage injecting and seeing patients from a home surgery on a part-time basis. And at the fortuitous time, probably 2-3 years into our relationship, she asked me to consider retiring and joining her in her venture to supply the management side to her business.
And what were the humble beginnings of this business?
Well, the business originated in a home surgery, literally a room of 10 square meters where Maureen would see patients. This was just after the introduction of Botox into the medical arena, just around 2000. And she would see patients in the afternoon. She had a morning's job working in executive health. And eventually the body corporate in the complex where we live got a little bit upset because the vast majority of people visiting the complex were visiting our apartment. And they felt that it was iniquitous that 90% of the telephone bill for the running of the gate control system was attributable to us, but that we were only one of 32 units. And they suggested to Maureen that she should cease running a business from home and look for premises.
And a lot of people out there watching, they want to be entrepreneurs, they want to start up their own businesses, and everyone says that journey begins with one step. What would be the steps that you recall in those early days when you got going?
Well, the first step was invariably going to get premises and set up. And our intention at that point was really not to start a business. It was just simply to take what Maureen was doing at home and locate that into more suitable premises and facilitate her being able to see patients. The day we actually moved into those premises and we'd finished fitting them out, and we were talking about a unit of around 30 square meters, we looked at each other and we said, we have a problem here. This isn't going to be big enough because everything is dependent on just Maureen working and putting in hours. We can't ever employ staff, we can't grow this business, we're going to be hamstrung. And we went out that weekend and we looked at what sort of alternatives there could be. And we landed up buying an old, decrepit house in Parkhurst, which I then for the next year was involved with partly demolishing and refurbishing and rebuilding. And 1 year after we'd opened the initial consulting room, we opened our first branch, so to speak. When Maureen opened the original business, she was simply Dr. Maureen, and the brand of the business was her name. And we quickly established that what we needed to do was create a brand and identity for the business itself.
So how do you get out there and get customers? I mean, I'm sure that many people out there want the kind of services that you, but how do they stumble across companies like yours?
Originally, the brand was built through referrals and through word of mouth, where the results that people were getting were the results that they wanted, and they would either be asked or they would tell friends about it. It's quite difficult in the medical industry, particularly in beauty aesthetics, because very few people will admit to the use of Botox. They would rather say that their appearance is totally natural and due to good genes and has not received any help from outside sources. And in South Africa particularly, there is still to this day a little bit of a stigma attached to treatments like Botox and injectables, which in America have very much become par for the course. And going to have your Botox injection is no different to going to a dentist. And it is certainly, if a politician in America, and most of them do, has a Botox injection, they wouldn't get front page coverage like Helen Ziller did. It's just not the way that it is there. So in terms of attitudes towards that, South Africa is certainly still behind. But while we were opening that first branch, we were approached by a doctor in Fourways who wanted to sell his practice. He'd fallen on hard times and was in the middle of a marital situation, and we managed to structure a deal. And suddenly we found ourselves sitting with 3 branches, with no brand and no real identity and no real idea of where we were going to. And it was at that stage that we needed to regroup and say, and acknowledge that we're no longer running just a single medical practice, but this is going to become something very, very different.
And it must be quite difficult at this time, because now it's almost when you turn on any street corner, you see new places offering the same kind of thing that you're doing. It must be tough.
We actually welcome competition. Competition in any sphere of the market is very good. We have certain advantages in that we've been in this industry now in terms of the length of this industry from the beginning. So we have managed to learn many of the lessons that other people still need to learn. We've had the experiences. We also, because we invested very, very early, we were at the cutting edge when we started. So for us, the challenge has been remaining at the cutting edge. We're in an industry that is evolving incredibly quickly. Much of the legislation that is written in South Africa in terms of the aesthetic industry has not even been written and doesn't apply to the aesthetic industry, because when it was written, the industry didn't exist. So legislation is still very much behind the times. We're operating under legislation which was promulgated 15 and 20 years ago.
When it comes through, is it going to be easier or harder for people like yourselves?
One would hope that it becomes easier. The legislation process itself is fraught with difficulty because there are vested interests, and it's a process of negotiation. I know that the South African Aesthetic Doctors and Anti-Aging Doctors Society has been working together with the medical control HPCSA bodies for the last 5 years in attempting to create the aesthetic industry as a specific segment and to develop the educational processes and accreditation so that aesthetic medicine can be recognized as a speciality in the same way as many other medical specialities.
And also outside of this country and the rest of the continent, how do you think a business like this can reproduce itself there? Because I know I've worked on the continent extensively down the years. A lot of people are still not really comfortable with this kind of thing.
I think the biggest shift is that as this industry has grown, the point of affordability has shifted quite dramatically. If we were to go back 20 years to someone who is, for whatever their own reasons, dissatisfied with their appearance, they were literally in the position where they could choose to have a facelift or go and have a facial from a beautician. There was absolutely nothing that existed between those. And in the same way as I remember buying my very first mobile cell phone for my car, it cost me 10,000 Rand back in the 1980s for one single telephone, which was portable only due to the fact that it had a very large strap that I could carry the suitcase containing the telephone with me wherever I went. So the point of entry was very difficult there. That has now become a consumer item.
So how is it catching on now? I mean, the other week I went to the hairdressers and the lady said to me, would you like camouflage colouring? And I thought, what's she talking about? And then it suddenly dawned on me, talking about dyeing my hair black, and I thought, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to walk in work tomorrow and face everybody with it. But I don't know, I mean, are people getting over that sort of thing?
We live in a society that is to a very large degree influenced by the media. We hold beauty queens in esteem. We hold film stars in esteem. We look at the trends and the beautiful clothes and the images that they portray. There's not a single beauty ad that appears in any women's magazine that has an old battered hag as their face of their product. Beauty is an undoubted reality. And whether it's right or not is not the question that I debate, but the reality is that the opportunities that exist for people who are perceived to be beautiful or good looking or tall or muscular or whatever very often have an influence on their ability to progress in their chosen fields. And as a result, any assistance that people can use in improving the way that they look, it is no different to clothing yourself correctly for an interview where you will wear a suit as opposed to your lounging shorts and your pajama top. It is the way that you present yourself. And in the same way that a woman puts on makeup, so if she is able to improve her appearance and feel better about herself, more confident about herself, and get more positive reactions from people, why not? It's a tool that's available, it's affordable, and it is being used increasingly. Many of our customers or our patients are TV producers, are actresses, are people in business, are newscasters, are people who appear in the media eye, and they want to appear as well as they are able to.
And you make it sound, well, so easy-ish, shall we say, starting the business. There must have been some difficult times. Well, there was ever a time when you thought enough is enough?
No, we've at no stage were we ever discouraged and that we had a problem we didn't feel couldn't be overcome. I think the biggest challenge was establishing the brand in the first instance, where we recognized that as long as the brand was a person or a name, the two would be inextricably linked, and the brand's value would never have any intrinsic value of its own. It would always be the name of the founder or the name of the people that work in the company.
Victor Snyders, entrepreneur, thank you very much for sharing your experience with us. I'm afraid that's all we've got time for this edition of the Entrepreneurial Edge. For me, Chris Bishop, it's goodbye.